So Wrestle DX plus Alpha goes. So if you're a gaming fan, right? So you know there's a distinct difference between arcade games and simulation games. There's even games that are kind of a hybrid of both. So we're just going to have a discussion, a conversation, a podcast, if you will. Please come in and join us for this conversation. To understand what are the benefits of having an arcade-orientated wrestling game versus perhaps a simulation-based wrestling game, and talk about the pros and cons and stuff, and just flow along with us. So, dude, arcade wrestling games, man. So we have there's loads really. There's like WrestleMania, the arcade game. There's Royal Rumble, the arcade game. There's WrestleFest. They're all fondly remembered. I mean, why are they important? And they kind of stand out for their own reasons. But they are fondly remembered because they're just arcade quick blast titles, man. So, what's your thoughts and memories going into those?
Well, exactly that. A quick blast. Sometimes it's cool to go the simulation route and have these technical bouts and really think about your opponent and taking them down at the knee and injuring them to hobble them so they can't run around so much. But sometimes you just want to go in there and just rush at them and just do moves. Just like you do in other fighting games. A little bit of Tekken.
You see, I'm surprised there isn't actually a WE style game like Tekken, actually. Because Tekken's system works quite well. Left punch, left kick, right kick. Grapple system in there as well. It's quite technical. I'm surprised there isn't a one-on-one fighting game like that's a wrestling game that features wrestlers, but it's a fighting game. I'm surprised there hasn't been one.
I think the closest to that would have been WWE All Stars.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. And actually, I was thinking about even like the first UFC game, Dreamcast was like that actually. That was a wrestling style oriented gameplay that had Tekken controls, and that was pretty decent back in the day. It's probably aged kind of well just retrospectively. But man, I think like you said, arcade games have a fasty arcade feel to them that helps them stand out as being different. The SmackDown games have constantly evolved and changed and gone back and forth on a few things. It's probably the easiest one to see a timeline of changeover. But some of the earlier ones had more arcade modes in them, an arcade style of play. Certainly number 2, where you could not hit that swanton bomb for love nor money because the guy was already back up faster than fuck.
Yeah. You also had Slobber Knocker mode as well, which was just old school survival mode. And that's something I miss. Sometimes I just want to sit there and just have a brainless blast instead of having to worry about a 5-star rating every time I actually try and fight somebody.
Yeah, because that's kind of overtaken in the current games, isn't it? So let's say simulation modes. So what wrestling games would you say are more simulation orientated? I've got a few that come to mind, but I'll let you shoot first.
Definitely the Fire Pro wrestling games.
I
The
think
more recent WWE games.
for Fire Pro, I think there's a wrestling purist and gamer at heart when Fire Pro is in the ring, as it were. But like you said, that the most recent WWE titles. So we're talking 2K19, 18, 17. I still think 18 and 17 are so slim that it's always hard to differentiate between them. But 19 seems to have more simulation orientated stuff. And I can remember looking back, I think it was like maybe even 11 and 12, when you first started to see the evolution of logic come into the game. It's taken out of the Fire Pro games almost, so you could how often as a bar, how often the enemy would counter you and reverse grapples and stuff. So it stopped being so easy. I mean, I used to play the game on like hard and legend just to get a decent match out of the game sometimes, just because I wanted to have a wrestling match rather than just an easy win. Were you like that as well?
Yeah. Arcade games are fun for a mindless blast. But when you want something a little bit more, you can't fault going in for a good simulation. The early days of professional wrestling and video games was the old style of like WWF, WrestleMania and that. You'd walk into the opponent, grab them, mash your pad and he'll do a move, which was kind of cool, but still reminiscent of the old school arcade games.
So we talked about
And then
the Acclaim ones, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then the PlayStation came along, and the very first time there was a 3D wrestling game was Power Move Pro Wrestling for the PlayStation. It was
Yes.
3D, and it was more simulation.
I mean,
It was a fictitious roster, and you could do moves and you could do submissions.
yeah. See, that was actually another video I wanted to think about. When did that system come in? When you could work a game. So, for instance, when you pinned a guy, so like Warzone and Attitude, for instance, it was like a countdown bar waiting for it to kick out. But you, as the person who putting the pin down, could let go. And I found that first turned up in the WCW games, not versus the world, but the one after, where you actually could let go with the pin, or if you got a submission on, you can let go and can continue the match.
Yeah, just to prolong the agony.
Yeah, I just want to take it off, put it back on again. Because otherwise you just mashing the buttons, wasn't it? But when that became into games, you realise you can actually work a match as a player, as opposed to going for the win. I think that's where wrestling games differ from fighting games. A fighting game, you're there to wear a bar down and get to the end goal. With a wrestling game, actually, there's more in, if that's that's the right way to use it, of having a fight. You can work the match too.
Yeah, you could go that little step extra and on purposely humiliate an opponent. I remember a friend of mine, Matt, he was actually playing online on the, yeah, it was like one of the very early online games. I think it was like SmackDown versus Raw 2008 or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
It was really early. And during the course of the match, he decimated the opponent. He was just better at countering. The other guy could barely touch him. And I remember at one point, he got out of the ring after decimating this other guy. And he got him in the ankle lock and he was going to tap him out, but let go. And he had him pinned and let him go. He went outside the ring, got a chair, walked over to this opponent he just dropped, and dropped the chair next to him and just stood in the corner waiting for him to get up. And online player got up, grabbed his chair, ran at him, went for a swing. He countered it like a pro. It was like watching professional wrestling on TV. Countered it like a pro, took the chair off him, threw it down, and just threw him into the ankle lock and tapped him out.
Oh, a full work.
It was just done. It goes beyond beating someone.
Yeah.
It's beating someone mercilessly. It's beating someone embarrassingly.
So,
and that's what that was.
It's interesting about beating, humiliating, and so there's a few games, actually wrestling games, that have actually featured humiliation modes in them. So, Rumble Roses particularly comes to mind. So, Rumble Roses XX on the 360 had, so you could beat your opponent down so far, and it had a little bit like I'm trying to think. An equivalent game would have it in. I think King of the Fighters do. When the energy bar comes down so far, you start getting more powers up and stuff, and you start having another ability. Well, you can hit your finisher, and then if you let your finisher bar build again, and then it refill for a second time, you have a humiliation finisher, where you could it's fucking over the top anime style sequence would happen where you you spank them or you fucking pull their clothes off or some shit like that, or they'll make you kiss their ass or something. It's like a humiliation finisher. And I was like, who the fuck would do this besides Japanese perverts? But the options are in there.
The thing is, I always thought that would have been really cool in the WWE games, where in Seth Rollins used to do the pedigrees, his finisher.
Yeah.
If you could go that extra step further and have that humiliation mode, and he could actually hit his curb stomp. For Randy Orton, he'd hit the punt kick. Not not beating them, destroying an opponent.
Yeah, like an over-the-top style hit. Yeah.
An absolute, that is it. You ain't kicking out, you ain't getting up. Either this match is stopped by referee stoppage, or you're able to just walk over to him and just put your foot on him and beat him.
I have just realised I'm now going to go get some 360 footage of Royal Rumble Roses XX. I've got the PS2 version. I don't have Double X, but I think you do. So I'll have to borrow it from you.
Well, you don't have to. In fact, actually, you want to do that, I could just send you my password and email address, and you could just download it.
Okay, cool. Because I actually quite like Rumble Roses 1. I thought the control system was really good. Add the gameplay. Again, it's a fictitious roster, but the game is actually pretty
It's a
solid.
decent game. The thing is, as well, the moves were very reminiscent of the SmackDown games at the time.
They were. They were. And it was Konami who published that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it kind of felt like a bit like Fire Pro because it had the camera at the isometric angle.
Yeah.
And had full intros going on. The characters had stories. There was an individual campaign with a character who clearly was inspired by Satomura as kind of the main girl. You know, I actually really like Rumble Roses. I actually might have to go play it again. But they had some silly modes in there. There was a mud wrestling match was in there. So I'm not quite sure where that fits in between arcade and simulation. But it's what the pervs of Japan love.
You Japanese people, you cats are crazy.
Hey, dude, I played Yakuza 0, man. There's a guy walking around wearing his underwear who just gets... You come across him randomly in the game, and he's just kind of like dancing. Mr. Libido, he's called. And you just find him in the background, like perving, looking at like naked porn pictures, and is encouraging you to go look at like videos at the local arcade, of where it's just girls like taking their clothes off, man. It's weird. But the Japanese people, they're just crazy. Love them, but crazy. Man, so when did arcade... You spoke earlier about when games changed, when you saw games in 3D. So, is that when games stopped being... Is that when wrestling games stopped being fighting games and became their own genre? When they went 3D, like... And we talk about, say, Power Move Pro Wrestling, Tetsu Budokan, and Warzone. Is that when they became wrestling games of their own game, and their own genre?
Technically, they're still fighting games. You're still beating the tar out of somebody. You don't have to follow a script. You don't have to follow directions. You go in there and you pummel that guy's ass. But it's different. Like we've said, you can go further. You can still make a mistake as well. You can go in there and mercilessly beat the other guy. And then all of a sudden, they've somehow managed to muster up a special, hit you with it, pin you.
And they've got you.
Like a plank.
Yeah. Early wrestling games can do that. Early wrestling games. So any other features of simulation wrestling games that you want to talk about? Anything that stands out?
I think in some of the speciality matches, like Last Man Standing, that is a strategy match, really. To me. And along with Iron Man matches as well. Because an Iron Man match, it should start off with you both in prime condition, and by the time that timer runs to its last, few moments, you two should be just struggling just to get across the ring to punch the other guy.
Yeah, you should. I don't think we see enough of them. I like Iron Man matches. Yeah, so
I quit matches and Last Man Standing matches. Two of my favourite match types when they're done right.
Yeah. So there's another match that we can put into into the list of wrestling games in the future. Is when did the I Quit match become a game standard match?
It's difficult because, the I Quit matches have changed over the years.
They have.
One of my favourite variations was, I think, PlayStation 2. PlayStation 1, SmackDown 2. And it was you didn't just beat the opponent down. You had to take the microphone and you had to stick the microphone in their face.
Yes. As in all of the other ones,
and then
generally
they would either
speaking.
not or would submit.
Yeah, because that's technically
and
what
that
The Rock
was
did.
ingenious.
Because that's what The Rock did with Mankind, of course. Is that, tell me I quit. Yeah, because I guess since then it's just like, it just comes up KO, I quit. It's like, yeah.
Anybody, if you haven't seen the I Quit matches between The Rock and Mankind, in fact, any I Quit match with The Rock in, so this Royal Rumble 99, that was an I Quit match between Mankind and The Rock. Very few people know that the following night, Triple H challenged The Rock for the WWE title in another I Quit match. And again, The Rock was just pure gold.
He was.
They would just stick the microphone in the other guy's face. Tell other fans that you quit. sticks it in the face. I'm gonna kick your monkey ass and just beat him with the microphone some more.
Yeah, you
I
don't.
remember Mankind actually having the Rock in a compromised position, tell everybody you quit. And he says, I'm going to kick your monkey ass. And he takes your phone and he says, I'm going to split open that ridiculous looking eyebrow.
Man, so yeah, simulation matches are. I like simulation games. I like to know that I'm looking at is a simulation, but actually, like you said, I think All Stars is a perfect combination of that, where you can just go, fuck it, I'm going to play a game. And I recently actually only bought All Stars, quite recently, I bought it on the 360. And I was pleasantly impressed at how good the game was. What did surprise me is that the developers were the developers who made TNA Impact. And that was
Really?
it. And it was. Yeah, I was just like, is this actually what they wanted for the Impact game? Because I can remember reading in the interview that with when the TNA Impact game was being developed, as they wanted to have it at a more arcade-orientated pace that was reminiscent of the Attitude Era. And then basically, AJ and actually Joe were the ones who said, no, we want it more like Virtual Pro Wrestling 2. But now, having seen how All Stars looks and plays, might that actually have been a bad call?
I like me some All Stars. It's for all the years that we've had the SmackDown versus Raws, the original SmackDown series, and then the WWE and the year, and the WWE 2K titles. It was a refreshing break from it to go, here's something a bit silly.
And you know what? We haven't.
And they did some of the old school promos in there as well, with like the funeral parlor with the Undertaker. I don't know if how much you've played the
No,
All Stars,
I haven't.
but
No.
there's some. They've got some promos in there done in the old styles, and there's also like the dream match mode where you've got CM Punk versus Steve Austin. They've got someone of that today's era against someone of the past.
Really, I didn't know
it's
that.
like, yeah, there's it's Sheamus versus the Ultimate Warrior. There's who else was there? It said CM Punk versus Austin. Drew McIntyre versus Roddy Piper. There was quite a few. I think it was like for every modern day wrestler, there was set up in a match that would kind of make sense.
Interesting.
Against an opponent of the past.
Interesting indeed. So actually, that makes W All Stars actually worth watching and playing now. So I'm actually going to break that out after this and go and have a blast with that. So
it's a very good game.
So this really is a conversation comparing the arcade and the simulation, not a faux pass back and forth. This is a conversation. So I hope you've been enjoying this, and there's certainly many more to come in the future. So this is us going to be signing off for now, but stay tuned for more Wrestle DX plus Alpha. Well, that's quite good.